Welcome to my 13-day Halloween countdown. Day 6.
Good evening, folks. It's Saturday evening. Welcome to my Halloween countdown calendar, day 6. Well, my Halloween countdown, day 6. The calendar's part of it, but you know what I mean. Coming up, I've got obviously day 6 on the Halloween countdown calendar, which I'm not going to call Advent today. I've also got a talk today, and today I'm talking about logic. And you'll see why when I talk about it in a bit. And I've also got another poem to do with kind of Halloweeny, if you like, but it's a bit of a cryptic one. You've got to see if you can guess what I'm talking about, and I'll actually tell you at the end. Hopefully you'll figure it out from what I'm saying. So, coming up is day 6 on the Halloween countdown calendar. Here we go, there's the calendar. Take the lid off. Open the doors. There you go, number 5. Remember yesterday's was it Lost Boys yesterday's? I think it was. Yeah, David from Lost Boys yesterday's. Day 6. Orange bag. Bit of cords just fell out, I think. Stand that up there. Trusty scissors. Cut off. And what little goodie have we got today, Alibaba? We have got... Oh, yeah. I would guess that is Regan out of The Exorcist. Hang on, let me try it. There you go. You can see it from there. I think it's Regan out The Exorcist. I'd have a guess at that anyway. I can't think of too many people that look that evil, and she looks like she's wearing a nightgown. So I would have a guess that is Regan out of The Exorcist, I think. Yeah, I'll go for that. Regan out The Exorcist is in door 6 of the Halloween countdown calendar. Hello folks. Right, now I'm going to start talking in a minute about logic, but first of all I want to tell you something what's happened today in the UK. Now in London there's been protest marches about the fact that we're wearing masks and that we're having to self-isolate and everything, and all these people saying that it doesn't exist and that it's just a hoax, that the government want to keep you indoors, blah blah blah. In other words, conspiracy theory heaven. The only problem is, when people know somebody who's had it, when people know somebody who's died from it, and when people know somebody who's in their family has got it, then you tend to look at people like that, like I said yesterday, and you want to thump them. Because if these people believe that it doesn't exist, right, what happens if they come down with it? Because I read a story, about 2 months ago. A man in America set out to prove that it was a hoax. I think he was in America. Yeah, I think he was. And he set out to prove it was a hoax by catching it. He wanted to prove that there was nothing to it. And he died from it. He died from it. And his last words were, I got that wrong, didn't I? And he died from it. So, if you want to go out there and prove that it doesn't exist by catching it, and believing that it's just a common cold, and you end up dying from it, you've got nobody to blame but yourself, really. Well, I can't see that you have, I must admit. Right, logic. We're in a pandemic at the moment, and I'm not going to say an epidemic, because it's a pandemic. It's worldwide, and it's bad, right? And it's the coronavirus, obviously. Unless you've been living under a rock, you will know that. Now, logic dictates that during a virus and a pandemic, the things that are essential are cleaning products, to keep everything sanitized, cleaning products, house cleaning products, and other stuff, right? And I'd also class as essential clothing, Because if you haven't got clothes, you're not going to survive a winter, are you, if you've got no clothes? We're not all going to walk around stark naked, are we? Round the streets and everything. You don't go do your shopping in Tesco completely stark naked, or in Asda. You'd have some funny looks if you did. Anyway, the reason I'm saying this about the logic is Wales, which is still part of the United Kingdom, have decided to go into a 2-week lockdown, which is a fantastic idea. A 2-week circuit breaker is a brilliant idea. The only problem is they've told the big supermarkets not to sell non-essential items, and they haven't actually stated what they are, but the supermarkets have deemed clothing as non-essential items and cleaning products, household cleaning products. Now, if you want to keep your house sanitized and make sure that the virus has got no chance of coming into your house, you need cleaning products to keep it sanitized. Surely, I mean that's not even. It's not even it's not even logic, really. I suppose it's obvious. If you've got a pandemic and you need cleaning products, you do not want to go down your supermarket and find out that they've been stopped from selling non-essential items. The other thing that you class as non-essential, which I suppose is, but isn't if you need them, are cards and books. Now, you might say they're non-essential items, but just let's say you live in a house that hasn't got the internet, right? Hasn't got the internet. Like some elderly people haven't got the internet. They don't want the internet. They're quite happy living their lives. But one of the things a lot of elderly people like doing is reading books. Yeah, reading books. So to them, that's an essential item. Do you get me? I don't understand how you can say something is an essential item when, you don't know if it is or not. It isn't essential to you, but it might be to somebody else. Yeah? Another thing I wanted to bring up to do with, well, it's kind of not logic, it's more an insult really, is our government decided, I told you a couple of days ago, that we are not going to extend the free school meals around the country for underprivileged kids or whatever, or just people who have free school meals, And they turned around and they said this is because this bloke come out with it today, and I can't believe he came out with it. I'm not going to mention any names because don't drop myself in it. But an MP actually came out and he turned around and he said that the majority of the money that was paid during summer probably went to crackheads and brothels. Now, this absolutely stunned me because as far as I know, all the stuff that was paid out was was vouchers. Nobody got any cash. So why would a food voucher be any good to a brothel? Because he was questioned on it, you see, and he turned around and he said, well, bear in mind, he says that there's schools where 50% of the children's parents are either in brothels or crack houses, blah, blah, blah. And he said, and wouldn't the money be better spent helping those in society? And somebody said, well, hang on a minute. So what you're saying is it's better to give 20 quid to a crackhead to help him get off crack than it is to give a kid to stop him from starving. Which is when he came out with most of the money that was paid in July probably went to crackheads and brothels anyway. And I think that's a bit of an insult because what he's basically saying is anybody who has school dinners is either a crackhead or the prostitute. Now, I had school meals all through my entire school life, mate, from when I was 5 to when I was 15, 16. And I loved free school meals. I absolutely loved them. I loved school meals. I did. I couldn't get enough of them. I loved the food. I thought it was really nice. It wasn't healthy, don't get me wrong. I mean, a lot of the food nowadays is healthier because you've got things like pastas and chicken and stuff like that. We used to have pizzas and chips and spam fritters and stuff like that, But it was good food. Now, my mum wasn't a prostitute and my dad wasn't a crackhead, but we still got free school dinners. So for this MP to say that was bad. Anyway, while I was reading this and knowing that that's what I was going to talk to you about tonight, I came across another article which stunned me. Earlier on this year, they decided that kids obviously couldn't go to school. They closed the schools, and they said that schools could apply for laptops for the children so that they could literally have lessons at home and have education at home. And the government said, put in how many you want, blah, blah, blah. They've now turned round and literally slashed it by 80%. So if you ordered 100 laptops for your kids, you'd be lucky to get 20. If you ordered 500, you'd be lucky to get 100. The government have actually slashed 80%, but at the same time, this is where the logic comes back into it, at the same time they've turned around and told the teachers it is now illegal for you not to be able to educate them children at home. You've got to educate them children at home. And if you don't, you can get prosecuted. But they won't give them the laptops for the children so they can connect to the internet and do it remotely. So how is this going to work? How is this going to work? Are teachers going to have to go around to every individual child who hasn't got a laptop or a way of getting on the internet to teach them maths, English and the usual? I don't understand it. Now, the government's always had a way in our country of taking from the ones who've got hardly anything to give and giving it to the people who've already got more money than sense, right? Now, a lot of these people are decent people, these people who've got lots of money, and they do care about people who haven't got as much as them. There's a footballer for Man United called Marcus Rashford. Now, I don't like Man United. As you'll know, I'm a Liverpool fan, and we hate Man United. But this guy, off his own back, nobody's forced him into it or nothing, he has literally led a campaign which is trying to get the government to extend these school meals and to actually implement the school meals. Now, the other day, bear in mind, he's a Premiership footballer, so he could be on 70, 80, 90 grand a week, I don't know. But him and his mum were helping out in a food bank. And he wasn't being like, it wasn't some sort of publicity stunt. He is genuine. Now, here we have a Premier League footballer who basically has got more money now, he could do whatever he wants with it. But he still wants to make sure that children get their get the food. Because what is the point of trying to educate a child who can't concentrate because they're starving, they're hungry, they haven't had a meal? Some of the reports said that some of these head teachers had children there, and when they had the free school meals, that's the only meal they had that day. That's it. Because the parents can't afford to feed them at home. And this is going on in my country, the country that's supposed to be one of the leading countries in the world, It's supposed to be a top nation. And yet we treat our people who are in it, like I said the other day, I've obviously been over this, but I said the other day, we treat our, what do you call them? I'm trying to think what they're called. Not residents. Population. They treat our population, the population of the UK, most of us anyway, like absolute scum. They really do. I've seen it, I've had it firsthand, because obviously with me being disabled and having things wrong with me, I've had run-ins before with the authorities, over payments and whether I'm entitled to it and whether I'm eligible for it. Now, I'll give you an example. A few months back, it was last year, I applied for my PIP. Now, PIP, I was on DLA at the time and they switched me over to PIP, which is obviously personal independent payment or something like that. And I went for the medical. Now, the first time I went down there, they did a crafty one on me. Now, bear in mind, he'd sent me a text message to say that could I turn up on a certain date. So I went down on the date. I was about 20 minutes early. And the woman turned around and she said, there's been a bit of a delay. Can you wait for 2 hours? And I said, there's no chance. I can't sit down for 2 hours on one of them chairs, what they've got there. I can't do that. I can't sit down for 2 hours without moving on my own. That's why my vlogs are only 20, 30 minutes. I have to keep moving, otherwise I seize up. And the amount of pain that's in the base of my spine when I stand up, even after this, it's always there. But I like doing my vlogs, so I'm putting up with it. It's just something I do. But they had me going back, right, a few weeks later. So I went back a few weeks later and got my crutches, my calipers, because I don't go out without them. They're not just for show. I do not go out without my calipers and my crutch, my stick, my walking stick, my palm crutch. I have to. I can't balance otherwise. So I go down there and I'm sitting there and they call me in. And this guy's walking in front of me, bear in mind, facing frontwards. And we go into his office and he goes through all these routine things, what he wants me to do, etc. And so, to be honest with you, he said, how are you for doing exercise with your feet? I said, well, I've got calipers on. I said, so I can't really do much. He said, oh, no, we don't matter then, forget that. So, think nothing of it. About 2 weeks later, I got the paperwork through. And he said, we're taking your money off you. As far as we're concerned, there's nothing wrong with you. You've only got about 7 points for mobility and about 3 for something else. But you need 8 on each to get the lowest rate. And I thought, hey, what's going on here? 4 years ago, when I went for this, I got given the medium of one and the high of the other. How can I have suddenly recovered from a nerve wasting disease, well, muscle wasting disease called CMT? How do you recover from that? You get worse from it. It's degenerative. So I'm there thinking, what the bloody hell's going on here? So I appealed against it. I got my doctor to give me a letter, etc., etc. They still turned me down. They turned around and said that there's no evidence. I said, well, I want to see a copy of that report. I want to see a copy, because you're allowed to, you see. If ever you get your PIP thing, you are allowed a copy of that report. And they sent me the copy of the report. And me and Deb could not believe it, because Deb had come in with me, you see. So she knew exactly what he'd asked me and what he hadn't asked me. Apparently, he'd observed me walking from the reception into his office without any aid. While he was facing forwards. He was walking forwards all the time. He was in front of me, staring straight ahead. So how the bloody hell he'd observed me, I don't know. In another instance, I got my stick in one hand, I've got my 2 calipers on, and I've got Deb on the left side of me, keeping me balance, otherwise I'll fall over. So he's also stated that I didn't have any mental health issues, no anxiety or nothing, even though I had to keep asking Deb what he'd said, because I couldn't take it in at all. My head was literally like a box of hot frogs. It was exploding. I couldn't keep on with it. He also told me I'd refused to do the exercises that he'd set for me, and that the exercises he did tell me do, I did okay with no problem. Well, I've got news for you. By the time we'd finished, he didn't ask me to do any exercises. He just sat there, had me close my eyes, and apparently was sticking something or running a feather over my hand or something or other. I don't know what he was doing, but he was doing something, and I couldn't feel it. I didn't know he'd done it. But this form we were reading, we couldn't believe the lies. The lies were just incredible. And this person, bear in mind, is qualified. He's qualified to see me. Because believe it or not, this person was a mental health specialist. And that absolutely amazed me, because he said I showed no signs of anxiety. Well, I didn't sit there like this all the bloody time, if that's what he meant. I like to try and live a normal life if possible, but they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to live a normal life. They want you to go in there fidgeting. If I'd have been a pillhead on, 200 pills a day, or I'd have been a drug addict that was recovering, and I sat there shaking and sweating, I'd have probably got it. So I thought, hang on a minute, there's something not right here. I don't agree with this. Now, normally, I don't do things. I'll just say, okay, fair enough, that's what they've decided. But this time, I felt like I'd been robbed, because I cannot go from having a condition to recovering. You can't recover from a degenerative condition. You can't. It's impossible. And he'd even wrote on this form, if it had been up to me, you wouldn't have had any money 4 years ago. And I thought, how dare you judge me? You've seen me for 40 minutes. 40 minutes out of my life you've seen me for, and you've been able to make an opinion and a judgment about me. So anyway, I got in touch with the newspaper. I got in touch with iNews. And I said, I've got a story, and I told them about it, and they were really interested. They were like, oh yeah, this is what we're after. So they rung me, and I had a good talk with them. I told them everything. Anyway, about a week and a half later, the reporter got back in touch with me and said that it was going to be in the next day's edition. So I thought nothing of it. I went to do my shopping with Deb. I actually hold on to the trolley. I can't shop. I just needed the fresh air at the time, because I'm going back to last year. This is pre-COVID, so before anybody says anything, this is well before that. And I'm there, and all of a sudden my phone went. Well, I've got to lean against a shelf in the bloody supermarket so I can answer my phone, because I can't balance and answer my phone at the same time. That's just out of the question. And all of a sudden this guy come on. He was really nice as pie. He says, hello. He says, I'm your case manager. Thought, case manager? I've never had a case manager before in my life. He says, yes, I'm from the social. He says, I understand. He says that you've been badly treated by such and such. He says, and I'm just letting you know, he said, that I shall be reviewing your case, blah, blah, blah. And I thought nothing of it, but I thought, hang on a minute. The story's gone in the papers today, and all of a sudden they're being nice as pie. Anyway, 2 weeks later, he said, I'll get back to you within 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, he rang me again. Hello, he said, I've had a look at your report, he said, and I've decided to award you the high rate of both for 4 years. Now, if I hadn't have gone to the newspaper and pleaded my case and gave them all the proof that they needed, I wouldn't have got that. So I know what it's like firsthand for the government to try and take all your money off you. And they always aim at the people who haven't got enough as it is. They always aim for the disabled usually and the elderly. I mean, our country is terrible how we treat the elderly. We treat the elderly like, okay, you did your part, you kept the country going for all those years, but now you've reached 80, you can die. You know, we don't give you anything free. You've contributed, now leave it to the youngsters. You can disappear off the planet now. We are disgusting how we treat our elderly. I abhor it. I cannot stand how we treat our elderly. I mean, to take off, to suddenly turn around and say they're no longer entitled to a free television licence. People in their 80s and kept this country going when we were absolutely dead on its feet. They kept us going. They rebuilt this country. And how do we repay them? By saying, there's a bungalow, there's your pension, goodbye. Oh, and by the way, don't leave too much money in your bank, because if you don't leave it to anybody, we'll have it back. That's how nasty my government is. You know, I hate how my government works. It's horrible. And it doesn't seem to matter, you know, what decade we're in. They just get worse and worse for treating the elderly and the disabled like scum. Because they seem to think that if you're disabled, it's the same as you being a dole dosser and out of work. Sorry, dole dosser, in case you don't know. Dole was what we used to sign on when we used to get benefits when I was youngster. They still call dole dossers now, even though the dole doesn't exist. It's called Social Security now. But, well, employment support allowance, income support, universal credit, they do all sorts of stuff. But I've always noticed that they always aim for the people who haven't got much to give. And what they basically do is say, well, hang on a minute, you're, you know, the lowest of the low anyway, so we're just going to make you feel 10 times worse. And I've heard about people who've had the pip taken off them, and they've committed suicide because they haven't been able to handle it, because they've been mentally unbalanced. But no help was given to them. It was just a case of, well, I'm sorry, but no, as far as we're concerned, you can go work. I mean, we've even had people who have got cancer and are undergoing chemotherapy, and they've turned around and said, well, we're taking your money off you, you're fit to work. When I was there, a woman came in, and I'm not kidding you, she could hardly move. And the woman said to her, what are you doing here? She said, well, I had a back operation last week, and I've got to rest for 3 weeks. She says, well, what are you doing here? She said, well, I rang up to ask if I could cancel it, but I was told if I cancelled it, you'd stop me benefits. So she'd come in while recovering from a serious back operation. It's another thing that makes me angry. Anyway, there's a lot of things that make me angry these days. I don't know what it is. Must be society. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to do a poem now, and like I said, I'm not going to tell you what it's called because I'm going to read it out, and then I'll tell you what it's called at the end. You all take care, and I'll do another vlog tomorrow. Remember, day 6 was Regan out of The Exorcist. Bye for now. Right, folks, here's a poem, and I'm going to put it on white screen again, so it's going to go a bit bright, but I might put some images over it so you won't see it anyway. Here we go. Cast no aspersions on me. Think not of me as what I am. Think of me as freedom and salvation. Do not try to fight me. Try to understand what I am. Think only of my power. You can trust what is there, but where is trust? Take no heed of what others say. I am me and nothing else. Think of me as your truth, and you will be able to accept me. Do not cast me away. Do not turn your head in ignorance. Look at me and recognize yourself, for I am nothing but you. Talk to me and I will listen. Listen and I will talk to you. Let your mind open to me, and you will know eternal peace. Do not try to run away, for I will wait for you to return, and one day you will have to face me, but will your courage prevail? I bet you're wondering what that's about, aren't you? It's actually about, drum roll, phobias. Phobias. So if you go back and have a listen to it again and see how it fits in. I wrote that one back in, I wrote that one in 1999. That's a scary thought. 21 years ago. And yeah, it's about phobias, which we've all got. Well, most of us have got, and some of us won't admit we've got them. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it was a nice little puzzle for you, as I like puzzles myself. Stay tuned, I'll do another vlog for you tomorrow. It's day 7 tomorrow, remember.